Hi, everybody. Welcome to our presentation on how to win people over and manage change. My name is Brooke Smart. I'm the career coach for arts and sciences. And then my partner in crime here is...
Hi, I'm Cassandra Crawford Sigler. I am the career coach for health professions and pre-health professions.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We just want to make sure you guys had a face for the name. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our presentation.
All right, everybody. So I'm going to start off the presentation today. Again, this is Cassandra speaking. Brooke and I are going to tag team as we go through this. So the presentation today is we're going to talk about how to win people over and manage change. So some topics that we're going to talk about today: how to apply for graduate and professional programs. We're going to talk about interviewing essentials and tie professionalism into that. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with managing change and conflict. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is applying for graduate school or a professional program. I know that a lot of students in health professions, pre-health professions, sports exercise science, looking to go that next step further, contemplating, is graduate program the right step for me? So most of those are, am I going to go into a master's program? Am I going to head into that professional terminal degree, a PhD, or a clinical doctorate? And is this the right decision for me? Oftentimes, students want to do this for gaining expertise in a particular field. It's required. It's the entry-level degree for a particular profession. So you're going to do that to gain qualifications for that particular career. Or you may have an interest in academia or research, and that's one of the reasons why you might want to go ahead and pursue that higher level degree. Having these questions, want to maybe come and discuss those with your career coach so that we discuss and see, is this the right decision? Do I want to continue to explore this beyond my bachelor's level education? How do you choose a program? How do you make these decisions? Making a decision like this isn't something that you just do in a couple of minutes. It requires a lot of exploration. So first thing you want to do is look at locations of the various different programs that might be available to you. Oftentimes, the first things that students say to me when they're looking at a graduate level program, whether it is for just a master's degree or a clinical program, is the location. Is it close to their support network? Is it home? Do they have relatives nearby? Are there alumni nearby that are support resources? And then obviously, what career opportunities are going to be available to them after graduation? The next thing that we always talk about is fit. Finding your fit for a graduate program is so very important. You want to make sure that whatever program that you're applying for fits your professional career goals, has to align with your area of interest. There are so many opportunities out there for you as a potential future graduate student, but you want to make sure that you're applying to the ones that fulfill your future career plans. So you want to do some research, do some homework and some investigating. You want to apply to ones that are going to help you meet where you want to go. Look at the faculty, see what area of research that they're conducting. Look at the program itself. Is the program itself aligned with a community focus? Is the program itself aligned with a research emphasis? Is the program more emphasized on a clinical focus? What is it that you want to do? What is it that they're doing? Those are the things that you need to be looking at. Again, apply for the programs that are going to help you meet your goals. And then finally, you want to look at the career outcomes. What employment opportunities does it look like from these programs that you're exploring? Where are people working from these programs? What are the job opportunities? And then you want to get onto your networking resources. Look at LinkedIn and see what opportunities you have to make connections with individuals who've graduated from these programs and individuals who are currently in these programs, maybe even current faculty. So a big part of preparing for graduate school is that application material. And it can seem awfully daunting to get that application material going. Your career coaches are here for you to help you with that process. Academics is one part of getting to graduate school, and you have your faculty, you have your academic advisors to help you with that portion. But what we're here for in the Center for Career Development and Professional Engagement as your career coaches is to help guide you through part of that application material processes. We can help you write your personal statement, which is a huge part of any graduate application program. So stop by, get some step-by-step advice on planning it, crafting your personal statement. We can guide you through that process. The Helen N. Wallace Writing Center on the TU campus is also an incredible resource for writing your personal statement. While the career coaches can help you develop content and tell your story, the Writing Center is going to help you make sure that everything is fine-tuned and grammatically correct. And you, right there on the slide, shows you a phone number that you can call and the web link so that you can set up an appointment with them. And they are still taking online appointments right now, even while we are away virtually off campus. So make sure that you make note of that. International Student Services for our international students, an amazing resource that we have. Whenever you're planning on going to graduate college as an international student, you want to make sure that you utilize this resource because there are going to be requirements for our international students, making sure that you complete your English proficiency testing. The ISS office helps make sure that that is done and taken care of. They will have information on your TOEFL testing. They will have information on international visa requirements. So again, these are all things to be thinking about for students who want to remain in the United States as graduate students and utilize this resource so that everything is taken care of for your graduate school application. Other things for graduate school application materials, entrance exams. There are a lot of different entrance exams that exist out there. Depending on your program will depend on what kind of entrance exam that may be required. I have a list of these on the next slide that I'll go through very briefly. So we'll talk about those in just a second. And then letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are so essential for getting into graduate programs. They're also essential for getting jobs. But we're just going to talk about them for the graduate program applications, professional programs. I'm going to use graduate programs and professional programs kind of simultaneously. They're, for health professions, they're the same thing. When you're seeking letters of recommendations, whether they're from your professors, someone that you have done an internship with, or a work supervisor, a physician that you have job shadowed, or somebody that you have worked with as in a volunteer position, the first thing that is super essential for you to remember is that you need to provide them with information. So you need a well-crafted resume, which again, that is something that you can get assistance with from your career coach. You also have to ask them with plenty of time before the deadline. So you have to be super respectful of these individuals and their time, knowing that they're working professionals. If you have a deadline, you want to make sure that you give them bare minimum at least a month to write your letter of recommendation. And so you're going to ask them respectfully, let them know what your deadline is, provide them with a resume, and maybe even a little more information in a cover letter telling them what your relationship is with them, reminding them some things that you've done together so that they have a little history and content, what your goals are, where it is that you're applying, what you're wanting to do, so that they're able to craft a really good letter of recommendation for you. So some common entrance exams and web links for these sites and more information are here for you. I'm just going to briefly go through what each of these are. There is the GRE, which is known as the Graduate Record Examination. These are used by most academic graduate programs. Some professional graduate programs use these. The ones that I can think of in health professions just off of the top of my head would be speech language pathology. So you have to check requirements of any program that you're applying to make sure that you are using the right examination, that you get the right preparation, that you know the test dates. So check the programs, and then you got to check with the testing site to make sure that you get the test dates correct. GMAT is the Graduate Management Admissions Test. This is usually done by business programs. The LSAT is the Law School Admissions Test. This is only used by law schools. So if you're thinking about law schools, then this will be the examination that you need to investigate. MCAT, Medical College Admissions Test. So the information and link for that is on the aamc.org site. Usually most students take this in the spring semester before they are applying for medical school. And both myself and Dr. Buheim have lots of information about the MCAT. The DAT is the dental admissions test for students who are interested in going to dental school. The PCAT is the Pharmacy College Admissions Exam. All of these, MCAT, the DAT, the PCAT, and the OAT, Optometry Admissions Exam, all of these exams are have very heavy foundations in the sciences. So anybody who's looking at a career in medical, dental, pharmacy, optometry are going to have completed requirements in a heavy science foundation. So what can we do to guide you again through this process, and what is the career coach's role specifically? Well, first and foremost, career guidance, kind of intuitive right there. We can guide you, help you through this decision. Is graduate school right for me? Does it align with my long-term goals? And are these programs the right ones for me? Am I looking at the right program to get to my end game goal? We help you with your application materials, giving you feedback on your applications, your personal statements, your resumes, your cover letters, help you get the letters, information to your faculty members so that you can get the letters of recommendation that you need. We can also help you get mentorships, so assist you finding a mentor, job shadowing, internships, volunteer experience, or experiential learning opportunities. Most of these graduate programs require that you have job shadowing or some kind of experiential learning, volunteering. You need practical application skills beyond the classroom, and we are able to help make those connections for you so that you have the experience you need to be the best applicant that you can be to get into your graduate program. That is what our role is to help you be that best applicant that you can be. And then finally, mock interviews. Being prepared for your mock interview is essential. Working with a career coach helps you hone those skills for a mock interview so that when you go into that graduate school, professional school interview, you will be prepared to answer any questions and to be that shining self that you should be in an interview and be a little more relaxed in that setting. So let's talk about the timeline a little bit. A lot of students come in and they know right away off the bat, freshman year, maybe even at the end of freshman year, they know I'm going to go to a graduate program. And I know that this is my pathway. This is where I want to go. And I'm not going to deviate from my change. I've known since I was, in first grade. And that's great. But sometimes students don't know what they want to do. In fact, 80% of students change their degree at least one time. So deciding until your third or fourth year to attend a graduate program is perfectly normal. So talk to your career coach about what these requirements are for your application, gaining experience. Do you need to take a gap year? What's that going to look like? How am I going to take that gap year, get my applications done, get my letters of recommendation, make sure everything's timed perfectly? And what do I do during this gap year? Do I volunteer? Do I use the degree that I have just earned in my undergraduate? And what are those employment opportunities like? And how can those employment opportunities make me be an even better candidate for this program that I'm applying to? Applying for these programs can be super overwhelming. We know that as career coaches. We've seen how stressful it can be. So yeah, we like to throw in little funnies here and there. Don't be overwhelmed. Make sure you utilize the resources that you have on campus. Ask for help. Don't let yourself get to this point where you're pulling your hair out. Let us help you, calm you down so that you don't lose hair over the process.
All right, I jumped the gun a little bit, but that's okay. So next up, we have interviewing essentials. So really the key to interviews is preparation. The more you prepare, the easier it is, the more relaxed you can be in the conversation that you have. And I really feel like that's where you can gain some momentum in interviews, is if you think of them as a conversation. And as much as they want to know about you, it is also your chance to kind of get to know that company and their culture. So some keys to your preparation that can help ease your mind: make sure you know your resume. You want your story to be consistent, whether it's on paper, on your LinkedIn or Handshake profile, or the story that's coming out of your mouth. You want it to all be consistent. It's giving yourself that brand identity. Know how you have handled problems. A lot of the questions you might get asked might be behavioral questions. And so they're looking to see how you handled situations and how that relates to the character and the skills that you have created from those experiences. Know the company. It's a big part of it. Knowing what kind of culture you're going into and knowing what kind of expectations they have for their employees. If you can know that ahead of time, it gives you a chance to think about how you spin your answers and really tie them back to maybe some of the core values that that company stands for. Be able to articulate why you are interested in the position. This is a big deal. If you don't know why you're there and you get asked that, it is really hard not to stumble over your answer. You got to have something that makes you connected to it. It can't be that you didn't want to starve today. Okay, there has to be something better than that. Know the job or internship description. That's a big piece of it. I can tell you that one of the things that I did when I interviewed for the position I'm in right now is read over the job description to make sure that I knew exactly what they were looking for. And if they had any questions about that, I was well prepared and well versed for that opportunity. And then last but not least, dress appropriately. Seems silly to think about right now, especially with the current situation we're in, but there's also a lot of research that shows that right now putting on shoes makes you more productive. So keep in mind that when you're doing interviews, especially virtually, you need to dress to impress. Your goal should be to be the best dressed person in the room. And taking that approach is going to help you carry that through your whole interview process. Okay, so have a game plan. We like to use the STAR method. So it starts with a situation. Describe a situation in which the event took place. So they're going to ask you a question of describe a time when you had to deal with adversity. Okay, you're going to think of a situation where you had to deal with adversity. So you're going to kind of set the tone for the story. Then there's the task. So describe the task that you were asked to complete. If there was a particular problem or issue you were trying to solve, describe that here. It's very similar to the situation depending on how the question goes. But you're given that situation, the task that you were trying to complete. If they're asking you a question about adversity, it would be what kind of adversity did you face in trying to complete that task? The next piece is the action you took. So explain what action you took to complete the task or solve the problem. What did you do? How did you handle it? Okay, and then last piece is the result. Explain the result of your actions. For example, if your actions were tasks that needed to be done, then describe first the action you took and then two, the results. For example, what happened. This is also okay for you to use a situation that maybe didn't work out. Now, what you want to do in the results part of this is tie up your answer. If things didn't end the way you wanted them to, then make sure you loop it back to these are some things in hindsight that we could have done differently that would have improved the results of our outcome. If you tie things up or you bring them back to a positive, there's always a chance that they're going to see the growth in you and that interpersonal awareness of knowing how to handle situations. Okay, asking the questions. It's important at the end of an interview when you get the chance to ask questions that you have things to ask. This tells them that you did your research in the company. It also shows that you have an interest in what they're working on. So here are just a few examples. What does a typical day look like? Can you describe what type of person is successful here? If I were to join you tomorrow, what will I be working on? Why did you choose to work for this company? I tend to think that the more you can personalize a question, like especially if you're interviewing one-on-one, the more you can make it about that person, it tends to be an authentic curiosity. It makes the conversation flow much easier. So feel free to build people up. It never hurts. You catch more flies with honey, as my mom would always say. So, smother them with sweetness. Okay, some frequently asked questions if you are interviewing. One is tell me about yourself. And sometimes I feel like this can be the toughest question to answer because you never know where to start. I've been in interviews where they were like, my name's Bob and I'm here for a job. And then you have some that started out when they were in 8th grade and they talk for 20 minutes in their 30-minute interview to get you all the way to where they are currently in their, let's say, mid-40s. So you can definitely overshare, but you want to have a good, consistent story about where you've been and how you got there and why that has led you this spot. So it is almost like your elevator pitch. You have 30 seconds, maybe a minute. What's the best that you can do? What's the best person you can put out in that short amount of time frame? If you think about it in that sense, you're really going to target the key information that needs to be presented. Another question would be, give an example of a time when you set a goal and were able to meet or achieve it. Okay, that's a really good question. It shows what you do to hold yourself accountable. Don't be surprised if they ask you the opposite. The time where you set a goal and you didn't achieve it. Like I said before, how can you take that negative and turn it into a positive? That's what they're looking for. Again, I feel like a lot of times they ask, what is your greatest strength? What is your greatest weakness? I encourage you to prepare more than one. If they are really looking to challenge you or they have a really good pool for candidates, they're going to ask you for more than one. Could be 3. So make sure you have a pocket full of these ready to go. Don't just tell me that you have great time management and excellent personal communication skills and that you always have a smile on your face. Like, give me an example for those things. Like, how can you demonstrate time management? Otherwise, you're just telling me that you have this brilliant personality and nobody has any proof or evidence of it. Okay, you have to sell them on it. All right. Okay, additional tips. Conduct mock interviews. The less nerves you can take into an interview, the better off you're going to be. The more practice you get, the less nerves you have. Like they say, practice makes perfect. I know you've probably heard it over and over in your entire life, but there's still a lot of truth to it. Practice your speaking voice and body language. This is big right now. You have to almost over convey your excitement to be in front of somebody on a screen, especially. I know you guys can't see our faces right now, but body language says a lot. You want to make sure that you're leaning in. You want to make sure that your camera is placed well. So elevate it so that it is at eye range for you. Obviously dressing for success. We talked about that earlier, but then just making sure that you're excited to have that conversation. And you may have to feel like you fake it a little bit more than you normally would, but that's okay. Remember that you're in a screen, you're not person to person in that. You have to sell it a little bit more than you normally would. And then last but not least, bring hard copies of your resume. The last thing you want to do is show up for an interview and have them not have copies of your resume and you didn't bring any either. Okay, being over prepared is going to ease your mind. You don't have to worry about it then. You've got them covered. I would say probably having 5 copies is about right. You don't need to bring 25, but just a few. That way, if they need some, they have some. All right. Some things to think about. Make sure you prepare your travel arrangements. So obviously if we were in person, you would need to make sure that you scheduled enough time to get there. But this also means that make sure that your travel time to your virtual office is scheduled as well. Make sure that you're ready to go. You've checked your internet, that you've tested things out. You know, use travel loosely in this sense, but it is still the same point of make sure that you're on time. Remember, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're left. In this case, that means left out of a job. Okay? Sell yourself. You need to sell them that you are the best person in the room for that job. It doesn't matter if there are 15 other people that are overqualified. Sell them on why your work ethic sets you apart. What do you have that's going to make a difference? Why are you the best fit for them? Again, it comes back to some of the branding pieces, telling a consistent story and being excited about being there, having that authentic curiosity when you ask questions. And then last but not least, follow up after your interview. If you can get the names of every person in the room that you interviewed with, it is common practice to send a thank you note. Ideally, we would love to have that sent through the mail. I think there's something very personal about sending a letter to someone saying thank you for the opportunity to interview, but it can also be done through email if that is the only information that you have on those people that you interviewed with. All right, next. Okay, Big Interview. So Big Interview is a tool that we have that you can use to practice your mock interview skills. The great part about this is there are industry-specific interview questions. There's also grad school-specific interview questions. There's law school-specific interview questions, depending on what you want to go into. So you can get to this resource through Handshake. If you're not sure what Handshake is, at the end of our slides, we have our contact information. Just shoot us an email. We'll get you there. So it's under Handshake, under the Career Center tab in the resources. If you click those 3 places, you will get to Big Interview. You'll have to create an account. It is free as long as you get to it through Handshake. And then you are good to go. You can practice all you want. They have all kinds of videos. They have different levels of strength of interviews, all of that. Okay, again, this is us trying to bring some light to where you're at. So the interviewer says, so why do you want this job? Well, I've always felt passionately about not starving to death. This is true for probably everybody right about now. What are you going to do to set yourself apart? What is your response going to be to this question that's going to make them remember you when you leave the room? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about professionalism just to kind of hit on this. It's going to tie into kind of the next section we jump into, but then also just in talking through interviews. So always be a professional. So always a professional, but when things go wrong, how to manage change and conflict in the workplace. Okay, so first things first, you want to make sure that you arrive on time. We talked about this. If you are commuting to some place that you have to go to, you want to make sure you plan for traffic, parking, and other delays. It's rude, disruptive, and unprofessional to show up late. In the event of emergency, notify your professor or employer of the situation. Again, we talked about this. Make sure you prepare for that. Same thing if it's virtual. Prepare for your internet. Prepare for your computer to not turn on. Make sure that you have everything ready to go. Some mornings my computer takes 5 minutes to turn on. Sometimes it takes 20. Be ready for that, okay? Don't leave early, okay? And whether this is a class or obviously an interview, you're probably not going to get up and leave early, but make sure that you're keeping those things in mind. It's just very unprofessional. You should be present in the room. You want to make sure that you are not disrupting anybody else as well. Put away your screens. This is pretty common practice. Cell phones should be turned off and put away. Be present in the moment and pay attention. Ideally, if you were having an interview, I would tell you to turn your phone off or leave it in the car if you were heading somewhere. If you are doing an interview at home, I would tell you to leave it in a different room. You don't need to know what time it is. You don't need to worry about any of that. You'll be done when the interview's done. And then I would say, you know, that just helps you stay present. It's not having you worried about any other distractions, things like that. Okay, be still, quiet, and make eye contact. So expectations are for learners to engage with professors and preceptors, engage in the moment as active learners and be present in that spot. So make sure that you're really targeting yourself to be engaged in what's going on in front of you, and make sure that you're not focused on other things. Put yourself with an opportunity to absorb what's being put in front of you. Make sure that your distractions are limited, whether that's your phones or it's other people who are going to try to pull you away from your opportunities. Make sure that you're really being targeted about that. Be positive. Be supportive, keep an open mind, do not jump to conclusions. Okay, all of these things can be helpful when you're trying to make sure that you're in a good spot, whether it's maintaining a professional presence or managing a situation, whatever that may be. And then be fair. Treat everyone as you would wish to be treated. Be kind, considerate, patient, honest, and trustworthy. All of these things, really, it comes back to just be a good human. Treat other people as you'd like to be treated. Maybe it should be treat other people as they'd like to be treated. Okay? However you want to think about this, however you want that rule to go, it can be applicable. All right. Contribute and collaborate. Assert your ideas in a respectful manner. Again, this is all about you participating in that group environment. Enhance effectiveness. Continually improve skills and acquire new knowledge. Learning never ends. It never stops. If you stop learning, you stop growing. You stop growing, you're going to be really, really sad with where you end up. Okay? Seek feedback. Accept suggestions for improvement and constructive criticism, and strive for continually professional growth and improvement. So you are going to always try to get the feedback on where you can improve. That's how you continue to grow. Perfect the areas that you have not mastered yet, and find a way to implement those. The more you practice, the better you get. Then that weakness becomes a strength and you can work on something else. Dress for the occasion. Dress in an appropriate manner for interviews in professional setting. This may be a mid-length skirt or pantsuit for women. Men should choose a well-fitting suit in dark, neutral evening hues. Shirt with sleeves with a tie, and pressed slacks are also generally acceptable. All right.
Okay, everybody. So the reason that Brooke went over the rules for professionalism, I kind of just want to tie this into this next section, is those rules for professionalism are standard for you as a working professional, as you all are heading into the workplace, and they are also the standard rules for you as an intern, because a lot of you have required clinicals, you have internships that are part of your undergraduate programs, and you will definitely have them as a graduate student. So those rules of professionalism apply in your undergraduate programs, in your graduate studies, in any kind of internship setting that you might have. And given that a lot of you are in those health professions leaning towards those graduate programs, keep in mind those rules of professionalism apply in every single setting, pretty much from here moving forward. So taking those rules of professionalism, we want to now talk about how to manage conflict and how to manage change in a professional setting. So the first thing that I want to say to you before I start rolling through this, in managing conflict, in managing change, if you come across conflict in a setting when you are a student, whether you are an undergraduate student, whether you are a graduate student, if you have conflict with a peer, or if you have conflict with your preceptor, your supervisor in such a setting, you are to take that conflict back to your institution. You do not do anything about it at that site. You do not address it with them. You are to bring that back to your institution and let your institution, your people, your faculty mentors know what is going on. So everything I'm telling you from here moving forward applies to a professional work setting as an entry-level employee. Again, I'm going to reiterate that. If you are an intern, if you're a student and you have conflict, you need to bring any kind of conflict problem with a student, with a peer, with a preceptor, you bring that back to the institution and you let your faculty know about that, and they're going to help you work through that problem. That's what it's like to be a student intern. And you never post anything on social media. You never voice anything while you're at the internship site. You just want to make sure that while you're there, you're polite, you're respectful, you're professional, all those things that we just went through, and have your problem managed at the institution. And for the most part, we really hope that that never, ever has to happen. But on the rare instance that it does, let your institution help you resolve any issues at the site. Now that I've gone through that, let's talk about conflict management styles, what that looks like, and how it can be useful in a work site. So there are 5 different types of conflict management style. And I can give you some kind of examples of when they might be used and how they can be beneficial and how they cannot be. So let's start up here at the top, and we'll talk about, there's competing. So competing type of conflict management style is when somebody takes a firm stance and refuses to see the perspective of someone else's, the other person's perspective. So this can be beneficial whenever you've got to stand up for your rights, morals, you need to make a quick decision, and you've got to maybe finish like a long-term conflict. However, when you're doing this, you need to make sure that you are making a decision that truly is that you're standing up for your rights and that you're not going to be impacting somebody else's. So collaborating, when you have a collaborating conflict style of management, everybody wins. This is a great way for conflict resolution. Rather than trying to find a middle ground, which that is not what this is, you aim for a solution that actually satisfies everybody, and this ends up being a win-win. So collaboration, you work with both parties and you work for a solution together that both individuals are happy with at the end of the day. Compromise is that middle ground. Both parties will win, but they also end up having to give something up. So it's not quite as good as collaboration, but it still is working together. Avoiding. An avoiding style of conflict management is exactly what it says. You just pretty much avoid it. You think it's something that's trivial. It's something that you don't have the time to address, or it's something you don't think that you have a chance of winning, or that you're afraid that you're going to be met with resentment. Obviously, this type of conflict management could end up leading to a larger problem down the road. So you have to be careful whenever you avoid some kind of conflict. And then there's accommodating. So one party yields to the other individual. So this can be appropriate whenever you feel less passionate about a situation than maybe somebody else does, or if you feel like after you've looked at the situation, you feel like maybe the other individual was right and you were in the wrong, or if you feel like you have absolutely no choice, that you just have to agree to the other point of view. So these are the different styles of conflict management and the ways that different situations where they might have come into play. I encourage you to think about yourself and maybe look at your own style of conflict management. There are situations where you might use one or all of them, but everybody has a style that they lean towards the most. So think about that whenever you think about when you've been in a conflict and how you address it. So when you think about the conflict management rules, there are some very effective resolution strategies. When I have been a manager and a supervisor over individuals, there have been numerous times that I have had conflict that I have had to resolve with employees. And no one likes conflict. Conflict is something we try to avoid, and it's really hard. So to work through that, you want to make sure that everybody ends up being able to tell their side of the story. So first and foremost, if you find yourself in a situation that is stressful and there's conflict, you want to stop. You want to breathe, and you want to like remove yourself from that situation and take a deep breath and decide, what does your next step need to be? You may want to even wait 24 hours before you do anything. You don't have to address it right then, right there. Take that moment and think about it. Conflict should always, always, always be addressed privately. You do not want to address conflict with individuals in a public forum, in a public setting. That's only going to make the situation worse with the individuals. You're going to embarrass people, and that's not necessary. You want to take conflict behind closed doors and talk with people privately. Whether this is just a conflict between you and another person, or you find yourself in a conflict with a couple of people, if you need to take something to your manager, address the conflict privately. That falls into the next thing, which says find the most appropriate place to address the issue. Is the most appropriate place to address the issue via email? Do you want to take the person out to lunch? Go grab coffee? Where's the best place to begin this conversation? So make sure that you find the best venue to start having this conversation. Make sure everybody has their say. You've got to be a neutral party when there's conflict. And if you're one of the parties, you need to make sure that you get to have your say. But everybody gets to have their say when there's conflict, because like it goes, there's two sides to every story and everybody has a perspective. So make sure everybody gets to have their say. And you need to have active listening skills. If it's just you working with somebody else to resolve conflict, you need to make sure that you have active listening skills. And what that means is that you need to hear what they're saying. You need to be repeating that back to them and say, what I hear you saying to me is. You need to make sure that you are listening to their words and that they know that you are listening to their words by repeating them back and letting them know that you're paying attention. Repeat back your understanding of the issue. That goes into that using the active listening skills and taking it a step further. Then you can use I statements. This avoids placing blame or focus on emotions. So don't use saying, don't blame, say you this or use that. Use I understand instead. You've got to lean into the silence of difficult conversations as well. Sometimes when you are working with someone about conflict, there's going to be silence. And we don't like silence. We don't like to sit in silence when we talk with people. When there's conflict, when there's hurt feelings, sometimes people don't want to talk. They don't want to work through it. You've got to make sure that you let people have time to work through their feelings, to gather their thoughts. So let them speak. Be quiet and allow them to do so. And then know when the issue is out of your hands. If you have done all of the above, you've tried all of these things and there is no resolution coming between you and the other individual, know when it's time to take it to the next level. Do you need to take it to your manager? Does it need to go to human resources? You've done every step that you possibly can. You have tried compromising. You have tried collaborating, and these things are not working. Know when it's out of your hands. And if that's the case, make sure that you both know that it's time to go to the next level. And then ultimately, we're going to assume things were successful, whether we've done collaboration or whether we've done some accommodating or compromising. Follow up with a conversation, an email or a phone call, and make sure that everybody is on the same page. These are ways to make sure that you have effectively resolved conflict between yourself and another individual or a group of individuals. So conflict management, there is that right there, but then moving on into something a little bit bigger is how to propose change. Because guess what? When people propose change in an institution, people, like, no joke, truly do lose their minds. Because I have heard more than one person say, why do we need to change something? This is the way that we've always done it. And honestly, change is scary because it brings uncertainty. Whenever you've done something a certain way, you just want to keep doing it because it's familiar. But as you can see, I've got the quote there that says that change is the only constant in life. We change all the time. We start changing at birth and we continue changing the rest of our lives. So we change and don't even realize that we change and grow on a day-to-day basis. So proposing change in the workplace is not necessarily a bad thing. It's how you go about it, and is it really necessary? Those are the things that we're going to talk about. So how do you pitch your proposal for change? These are things that are super important. First of all, understand the root of the problem, okay? Why are you proposing change? Are you just doing it because you don't like the process that's in place? Or is the change really necessary that you are proposing? Do you have a more effective way of doing something? Are you seeing something that's best practices out in research? You need to know what the root of the problem is before you even move one step further forward. Then after that, you've got to come forward with proof, evidence. You've got to provide compelling evidence of the change. You need to show contrast between old and newer data. Numbers talk all the time whenever you are proposing change in an institution, in a job, in any kind of workplace. So numbers, data, best practices, research studies, anything like that that you can say, this will make us more effective and more efficient, and by how much, dollar sign, percentages, anything like that. Using your resources wisely. How is your change really going to affect the bottom line? Is it faster? Is it more effective? Is it going to cost you more money? Do you have to implement new resources to do it? If so, then that's not really saving money. Or is it going to save money over time? How much time? How long? What's the cost over the time span, and when will you break even? What's your break even point? These are all things that you have to know, going back into the come in and be prepared. And when you have a change proposal that you are pitching, you want to have it planned out, which I'm going to talk about a little bit here in just a second about stages of change. But you want to move swiftly, but you don't want to be reckless about it. Changes, you want to have a trial run. You don't just switch from one system to the other. You want to kind of break it in and ease it in and make sure that the new system's going to work before you get rid of an old system. So I actually am a huge proponent of change and change management and leading change. John Kotter is one of my actually favorite authors. His book is called Leading Change. So this quote by him says, "Nothing undermines change more than behavior by important individuals that is inconsistent with verbal communication." Communication is essential in any kind of change proposal, change management that you are trying to do. So if you are interested in making a change proposal on your job, you want to make sure that you are being verbally communicative. Make sure that you are getting your ideas through. So the stages of change that I was talking about are right here by John Kotter. And if you want a successful change process to happen in any institution, in any organization, these are his steps on how to do it. So I kind of hit on those just a little bit ago, kind of in a more broken down, shorter version, but his is an 8-stage step where first you create a sense of urgency. What's the problem? Why do we need to do it? The next thing is building a coalition, building a group of people, bringing people on board with your change plan. You need people to see your vision who also feel like this is something that's relevant and important. It takes a village to make things happen. It's going to take a village to make your change management happen. Then you have to form a strategic vision and initiatives. Where's this going? What's your end game goal? Why is this important? You need to have a vision and you need to have steps for it. Then you need to have a volunteer army. You still need more people. And when I say also the building coalition, that means you've got to have help from the top down. You have to have administrative buy-in as well. And I don't like the word buy-in, but you have to bring it to your superiors and say, hey, I'm looking at this. Is this something that you're interested in? When you're looking for change in any place, you need to know that it is supported by your administration. Enlist the volunteer army, get people to help. And then you need to remove barriers. You need to generate short-term wins, so get things going super quick as far as short-term goals. Then you want to sustain things, and then you want to institute the change. And then finally, the last thing that we were asked to talk about as far as this was being heard respectfully as an entry-level employee. So we kind of like to talk about this. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? How can I be heard as an entry-level employee? So ways for you to get noticed as an entry-level employee. We've already talked about contribute and collaborate in a respectful manner. Make sure that you hear, or make sure that you collaborate every opportunity that you can. Seek feedback from your supervisors. Ask for that feedback. That's a way that you're going to get noticed. If you aren't contributing, if you aren't seeking feedback, you're just going to be that wallflower. Network one-on-one with your colleagues. Build your network. Find out what they know so that you will get noticed with your ideas as well. Use visual cues in your meetings. Be engaged. It's just like being engaged in a interview. Use effective body language and make sure that they know that you are engaged in every process. More ideas. Share your ideas in writing. If you don't get the opportunity to say something in a meeting, think it out, share your ideas in writing. Not everybody likes to talk in the classroom. Not everybody likes to talk in a meeting. If you have something that you feel is relevant and is a really good idea, write it down, build it out, and then send it to your supervisor. That's a great way to get yourself noticed. Tell stories. Sometimes people like to hear stories about what's going on, why you think something's a good idea. And if you have technical skills, which a lot of health professions do, that people might not understand, if you can make that connection for them by telling a story, they can then make that connection and understand why your idea is such a good one. Make make a case for business. How is what you're saying affecting the bottom line, which we had already just talked about a little bit ago. And then finally, follow up. You want to share your perspectives directly with someone after a meeting if it's super critical. If you didn't get a chance to say what you wanted to in the meeting, make sure you follow up super quickly after that meeting. So those are the things that we have for you today as far as being professional, interviewing tips, and managing conflict and change, and then graduate school. We have, if you have any questions, we are going to give you our email addresses that you can email us to here in just a minute. We encourage you to follow us on our social media sites. You can contact us. These are the career coaches for the Center for Career Development and Professional Engagement. Myself, Cassandra Crawford-Sigler, Brooke Smart, she is the Arts and Sciences career coach, and Christopher Wong, Engineering and Natural Sciences career coach. Brooke mentioned just a minute ago about the link for Handshake. It is at the bottom of this page, which you can use to make appointments with any one of the career coaches. Finally, the only thing that we ask for you today is if you learned something new, relevant, anything that could help you out in any of these questions that you all had for us today, ask that you take this survey. You just hold your camera up to the QR code. It will take you to a link to the survey. It literally is 3 short questions. It won't take you but just a couple of minutes. Your presenters today were Cassandra Crawford-Sigler and Brooke Smart. You can select either one of us and then answer the questions. I'm going to toss this back to Brooke and let her wrap up this presentation. Thanks so much for letting me jump in on your presentation today.
Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and bounce back to our contact information just in case you didn't get it or you didn't get a chance to take a picture of it. If there's anything that you need to help you get career ready or geared up for graduate school, med school, any of that good stuff, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. We're here to get you up and running and make sure you are as career ready or postgraduate ready as you need to be to make your ambitions come true. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to hear from you. If there's anything we can do to help, that's what we're here for. Email is great. We can set up phone calls, Zoom appointments, all of that. We also have a bunch of virtual events coming up, so feel free to look at our events on Handshake or on Facebook or on UTOLS Connect. Thanks for having us in your class today. Hope you guys have a good one.